Hello, my loves, and welcome to this week's episode of I Think I Need Therapy. This might be a difficult one today, but I've been wanting to share this story for a very long time. I haven't been in the right headspace to. I wasn't in a safe space to be able to do so, but now I finally feel like I'm better and I can share this story safely and properly and without, having a lot of emotional damage after. So I finally am feeling ready to share this, and I first want to thank you all for listening. I've always known this is a super important topic that I've been wanting to talk about because before it happened to me, I didn't really understand what assault really was and how it happens and how it could happen. And also I never knew the side effects and kind of the aftermath of sexual assaults. So I feel like it's super, super important to talk about, especially because one of the reasons I feel like I didn't understand that it was assault was because I wasn't educated at all on sex at all. I didn't really know what it was supposed to be, what sex, I don't know, how it was supposed to be for the woman. I saw so many stuff online, like TikToks and stuff like that, of girls talking about how it's never really, pleasurable for them and stuff like that. So I kind of just thought that's what it's supposed to be. Like, it didn't really matter how I felt or, how I was experiencing things. Like, in my mind, it was just, for the man. And also, my first time having sex, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what was good, what was bad. I had no idea what it was supposed to be like, how to even speak up for myself, etc. What assault could look like. And I think a lot of people have the perception that, oh my god, she was raped, but it's by a stranger, and they, grab the girl and bring her to the side and rape her or something like that. Which, yes, definitely is, but that's in extreme cases. What happens most often is someone you know does it to you in a safe space. Well, it's obviously not safe, but, in a space where you think that you're safe or that you don't expect it to happen. I feel like that's what's most common, and people don't realize that, and it gets really confusing, especially as a victim. So that to me is why it's so important to talk about, because a lot of people don't realize when assault is assault, and a lot of people don't realize that there's a lot of things that come after the assault that really, really affect the victim. And there's just so much on this topic that I need to talk about. So I'm definitely going to be talking about this topic a lot more on the podcast, because I just have so much to say, and there's so much that I went through this summer in regards to it. And yeah, today though, I'm just going to be sharing my story and experience with being assaulted. In my next episode, I will go more into detail with the effects of it and kind of the PTSD and trauma that I developed afterwards. But with that being said, obviously this can be a very triggering episode, so do what is best for you. Take care of yourself first and foremost. If this is something that could be super triggering and cause you to go into a not so safe space with yourself, then obviously do not listen. If you are able to handle this episode safely and listening to it, then please do so. But take care of yourself first, and know that I will be talking about rape and giving you specific examples of how it happens, and what happened to me. With that being said, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Annika Josen, and, well, I guess this is my rape story. Now, I've actually been sexually assaulted multiple times, multiple different occasions by 3 different men. Some of them I don't remember very much, but I'm just going to be talking about my main 3 that were the biggest, and the rape. So my first account when the rape happened was December 4th, 2003. I had been seeing this one guy for over a year, on and off. We never dated. We had talked about only seeing each other, only sleeping with each other, talked about all these different things, but we mainly just slept with each other and would have a lot of arguments because we wouldn't talk for 3 months, and then all of a sudden we'd start flirting with each other, and then it'd be like, well, why didn't you text me, blah 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 blah. He'd come back saying that he'd do better and he was sorry and he's gonna change and he'd start treating me better. And he would. If you listen to my episode on abusive relationships, this was that guy. Because it was just a cycle of him keeping me in this loop and apologizing and making the changes, but then not making the changes after time went on, and then we'd stop talking, then he'd loop me back in, yada yada yada. So I kind of I don't know, I trusted him in a way because I was comfortable with him. We had been talking for a year. We had slept together a few times. I didn't really think that anything bad would ever happen with him, although he did treat me pretty poorly throughout the whole time we had been talking. I thought about dating him. I don't know why I ever thought about dating this guy, because he was so awful to me and treated me like literal dirt. I didn't matter. I was just a body to him, and he was just using me all the time for sex. I don't know if he really was, but that's how it made me feel, because that's all he ever wanted from me. And he would make the changes just so I could go over and sleep with him, really. So for me, I felt so stupid afterwards, because once I got out of it all and once I saw things more clearly, I felt so dumb for going back and for even seeing this guy so many times and letting him sleep with me, letting him just use my emotions like that and make me so attached, but doing nothing. And I felt so dumb for that, but I've now come to realize that it's not on me. Yes, I did keep going back, but he kept me in that loop, and I tried to leave it so many times. I tried to just let him go so many times, but he just kept coming back, and I don't know. Somehow I thought I should have been able to see it coming. I should have been able to know he would have done that to me, but how do you know that when I've literally slept with him so many times and he hadn't done that before? You know what I mean? So what happened this night was that I actually don't remember the night very clearly at all, but I remember going over and it was just the usual. I knew it was going to be having sex, whatever. I was fine with that. I was fine with having sex. This is going to sound bad, but I didn't really want to have sex most of the time with him. I wasn't very enthusiastic about it. I wasn't yeah, I want to. I don't know. I wasn't very enthusiastic, and I didn't really want to do it whenever we did have sex. But just to say that, it does not mean he was assaulting me all those times when we were having sex and I didn't really want it, because I still willingly had sex with him. It was still consensual sex. I still was completely fine with that, even though I didn't really want to. Most of the time I have had sex because I wanted that person to like me, and that's how I thought they were going to like me. That's how I thought I would get their approval. That's how I thought they would start to feel more comfortable with me and want to do more things with me, because that's what I wanted. I wanted a relationship, but that's not what they wanted. And let me tell you, I tried to communicate that so many times with these people, but then they would agree. They'd be like, yeah, I like you, blah, 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 blah. While it was still just us sleeping together. So I would sleep with him and the other guys because I thought it would make them like me. And even though I didn't fully want to do it, I still did it willingly with consent most of the time. And because I thought, you know, we could cuddles after. They would want to see me more, whatever. Like I'm saying, that is not assault. What assault really is when you're not giving consent. When you do not want sex and you communicate the fact that you do not want to do that. Or, well, sex is rape. You do not want to do anything sexually, period, at all. And you tell them that, and it doesn't even have to be, like, so verbal. Like, even the act of, like, pushing someone's hand away, which I have done and I will talk about, but just pushing their hand away, anything like that, is you saying no and not giving your consent to doing those acts. So in this case, what happened was that I gave him consent. I was okay and willingly had sex with him. But the whole time I remember thinking that it kind of hurt. I remember it just like it being so physically uncomfortable, and I just like it was not pleasurable for me at all. It was not enjoyable. And the whole time I was lying there, I was like, okay, I just gotta get through this, like, you know, just until he finishes and then it's fine. Like, I don't know, which is awful. Like I said, I didn't really understand sex at all, so I mean, that to me was just normal. It was just like, okay, this isn't enjoyable for me, but it's for them. And I remember lying there thinking about, okay, just get through it, and wanting it to stop, but I knew I couldn't tell him to stop. I knew I couldn't, like, safely get him to stop, because every time, like I said, we had argued a lot, and anytime I had told him, like, that I didn't want to do something in the past, he would often, like, start ignoring me. Like, literally, we'd be in the bed together and he'd be like, no, like, I don't want to do that. And then he would, like, sigh and then, like, just go on his phone and FaceTime someone. Oh my god. Or he'd just, like, get all, like, I don't know, huffy puffy and, like, grumpy and just, you know, be annoyed with me or something, and, like, just wouldn't do anything. So I knew that, like, if I told him that I didn't want to have sex, and I had expressed before that I didn't want to have sex, like, before going over, and he'd be like, okay, then just don't come over, or, like, fine, and just, I don't know, hang up the phone on me if we were on the call, or, you know, he would just, like, get all, I don't know, like, angry in a way, but not, like, angry. He would just, like, brush me to the side, like I didn't matter, because I wasn't going to give him what he wanted. So this time I was like, well, if I tell him right now that I want to stop, he's probably gonna get all disappointed and won't like me, and will have this kind of reaction again. Or, like, I literally didn't know what he was gonna do, because he's so, like, unpredictable. And I just kept thinking the whole time, like, it is so uncomfortable. I just wanted to stop. Like, I don't know, but I can't tell him to stop. Like, I don't know what to do. And so it got to a point where I was like, you know what? I cannot stand this anymore. So I turned to him and I said, wait, it hurts. And in a very, like, in a voice that was, like, kind of, like, showed my pain, because I was in literal fucking pain. And so I like, kind of was, like, pleading to him to, like, just, like, wait, like, I'm hurting right now. And he responded saying, "I'm not finished yet." And then put his hand on my back and pushed me down, pinning me to the bed as he continued. I remember lying there just like in shock and confusion. Like I was so confused how he just denied me and then was there just pinning me down. I mean, it was the first time that had ever happened to me, so I was like, what is going on? But also in my mind, it was kind of like, it didn't seem very out of line for him. So I lied there, and I remember feeling that way, but also just like staring at the wall so blankly because I was just like, what is going on? And then at that point, I think I fully like dissociated, and I can't really tell you what happened after at all because my brain just like blanked it out because it was so traumatizing. And with rapes, with assaults, and what I've learned a lot is the fight, flight, or freeze. And then in assaults, there's also fawn. And for me, when you actually look at it, like, me fighting back, in a sense, was me telling him to stop. Me telling him, wait, like, it hurts. And at that point, it didn't work. Like, the fighting did not work. And I knew I couldn't, I knew from the start I couldn't just run away and leave. So at that point, I was like, okay, that did not work. He is also pinning me down now, so I cannot just leave. I can't get away. I can't run away. And so at that point, I just froze. I froze. And then fawn is where you just comply to whatever is happening because you can't do anything about it and you've tried everything. And at that point, for your safety and for your own survival, you cannot do anything more. And you have to just accept it and allow it and go with it. And that state, like, you are worried for yourself. Like, you try to just fight back. You're also in a very vulnerable state. And they're physically, like, harming you. And so, at that point, what a lot of victims do is you just freeze or you fawn, and it just happens. The perpetrator continues to assault you. Yeah. So I fully froze. I fully dissociated and don't really remember much of the rest of the night. I think I slept over and then left the next morning, not knowing that I had just been raped. Like, I had no idea. I had no idea at all. I now realize what a violation that was, and the fact that I was telling him I was in pain and he completely denied that. Like, to me, I knew I couldn't even say, like, no, stop it, because I didn't know if I would be safe even if I said that. I didn't know what to say, and all I knew is that if I maybe showed him my pain, that he would be a fucking human and say, oh my god, you're in pain, like, yeah, we can wait. And me saying wait as well was me saying also, like, me trying to be like, okay, if I say wait and if I say that I'm in pain, I will have the most likely chance of him actually stopping and actually listening to me, because I'm not saying right out stop, because maybe that would make him upset if I said, like, no, we're not having sex at all. And as any human being would do, they would normally listen to someone who's in pain and telling them that they're hurting and, like, stop hurting them. But he did neither of those and just continued for months after that, because I had not realized what had happened. I still was seeing him for months after. And I continued to wear the t-shirt he gave me, and I continued to text him and flirt with him. And I think I even slept with him after that, because I'm not too sure the timeline. It's still, like, confused in my brain, but I mean, I just thought it was sex. That's all I thought it was, because in my mind, like I said, sex was just for the man. And it normally was just for their pleasure and not for mine. So, and like I also said, it wasn't completely out of pocket for him to have done. So I just was like, yeah, it was what it was, you know, like, that just happens. It doesn't. I remember that I had told one of my friends about it, though. Even though, like, in my mind it was just a regular sex experiences, I still remember, like, kind of being confused about it, right? So I remember telling my friend, who I tell literally everything to, and she told me, like, this is how I found out, because she told me, she was like, Annika, he assaulted you. And then I remember just being like, oh, like, yeah, he did. And it, like, just did not faze me, really. And I didn't really understand what that meant. And so I remember telling people, like, it was nothing, because at that point I hadn't realized how much it had affected me. And I was just like, oh yeah, like, I was assaulted. And I hadn't realized that, like, holy shit, like, I was assaulted. Like, it was just, I was kind of numbing, and I was just like, I dissociated from it so much, and I, like, completely blocked it out of my mind, separated myself from it completely, because it was just, it's so traumatizing. And after she told me that, like, I kept thinking about it for a few months, like, here and there, and thankfully this man had moved, so I never have to see him again, and I haven't since. And I, for months later, was just, like, thinking about it, and the fact that she said that to me, and then it kind of started sinking in. I was like, yeah, like, that was assault, like, that was not okay. But I also hadn't fully accepted that it was even assault at all. I was just like, oh, like, that was bad. And at that point I remember it was a rough time. I was crying a lot, and I was just trying to, like, watch TikToks, like, so many TikToks and videos about, like, people talking about sexual assault, just to, like, feel validated. Like, I just wanted to, like, for it to really be okay for me to be experiencing what the feelings I was experiencing, and the hurt and the pain and the confusion and everything. I just wanted it to, like, be cleared up, and to be told, like, yeah, you were raped, Annika. And that's what I needed to hear at that time. And I remember just telling this same friend about it, like, constantly. And then one day I was just having a full breakdown, and it finally clicked, and I was like, holy shit, like, I was assaulted, and I was treated so poorly. And I got it reported. They said that I could if I wanted to, and they provided me with resources and everything. And so I started seeing a counselor at my school, and it was just, like, telling her about it sometimes, and, like, we had talked about it, but she, like, she wasn't really great with it. Like, she's a good therapist, but when it comes to trauma like that, I realized I needed someone more specific and who could really help me with the trauma. Even though I didn't realize, no, I had realized I was traumatized. Yeah, I had. So I started seeing her and she helped a bit, but I was still like every night crying and blaming myself. I was shaming myself so hard. I felt like everything was my fault and I was so stupid, and how could I even believe that he would have treated me well, and how could I not see how horrible a person he was? How could I have not gotten out of that relationship sooner and faster? Like, how could I let him do that? I should have said no. I should have told him to stop. I should have fought back more. All of this stuff, just blaming myself for the whole situation, and I could not see that it had nothing to do with me at all. I couldn't see that, no, it is completely on him. He's the one who chose to take those actions. He's the one who said he wasn't finished yet and denied my pain, denied my plea for him to stop. He's the one who did that. I did everything I could to keep myself safe in that situation. But I still felt like I was like the one to blame. I felt like I was the one who was stupid, and all of these negative things about myself I've believed in. So like, I believed a lot, and I thought I was so unlovable and all of this stuff, just horrible things about myself, and that my body was just this object that men used. And I went into this place where I just was disgusted with my body. I wanted to like peel my skin off. I wanted to like crawl out of my skin, out of my body. Like, I hated it, because like when I saw it, all I saw was like the rape, and I would be reminded of it, and the fact that a man abused me like that. It was just, I did not want to see my body, and I would have panic attacks thinking about it. I just was so wrecked from the experience, and at that point I hadn't even fully processed it. But then it happened again. Even as much damage and as pain as I was in, it happened again. So my second account started April 29th, 2024. I had got a DM from this guy who, we had a lot of mutuals, and we had been at the same event this night. And so after the event, he texted me and said that I had looked so beautiful. And I was flattered. I was like, oh my god, he's telling me I'm beautiful. Like, normally they just call me fine, or just say some like, I don't know, what are you doing type line. And so I responded, we went back and forth a bit, and then we started Snapchatting. And at this point, I had realized that I had been assaulted before by the guy I had just been talking about. So I didn't really want to have sex too much. And I didn't, like, since he was new, I didn't really want to start, like, anything with him, and I didn't want to be used like I had before. So as I had even done before with other guys, I told him flat out, I was like, I will hang out with you, but just so you know, I do not want to have sex. Like, I am not trying to sleep with you. I'm trying to just spend time with you and get to know you. But the fact that I have to clarify that is so fucking annoying, and I have had to do it so many times, and I'm like, yet we still had sex. Like, what? But anyways, I told him this, and he was like, oh my god, that wasn't on my mind at all. Like, no, like, we're not gonna do that. Like, I just want to get to know you too, blah 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 blah. And so then we planned to hang out. He was being like, I don't know, before hanging out, he was being like wishy-washy with the plans, and I was getting annoyed, and I was like, you know what, fuck it, like I'll just go to your place and we can just chill. So on May 2nd, around 9 p.m. I went over, and at this point, obviously, I knew what I had been through before, and I had been like, my mind was just already on survival mode, and I was thinking, like, noticing all the red flags and noticing, like, all the little things this guy was doing, and I was just reading into everything, like, okay, like, is he a good guy? Is he not a good guy? Can I trust him? Can I not? And I was just noticing everything. So when I walked into his room, I was like, okay, candle burning, like, that's nice. And then I sat on the bed and he sat in his chair. He didn't sit on the bed with me. And I was like, okay, good sign, right? And then we were talking. He was giving me compliments. We were getting to know each other. He was asking me lots of questions. And I was like, okay, good sign. He can be trusted. Maybe he doesn't just want to have sex with me. And that was my mind the whole time. And I remember then he slowly started to get on the bed and kept telling me, like, oh, you can lay down, you can get more comfortable. And then he just, like, got onto the bed and started to get closer. And I was kind of like, oh, like, okay, maybe this isn't such a good sign, like, maybe he is trying to do something. But I just went with it. And then I think I got to, like, around 10 o'clock, maybe 11. And I was like, okay, it's kind of getting late. And I had to be up early the next morning and whatnot. And I also didn't want to sleep with him. I just wanted to, like, get to know the guy. I was hanging out with him for the first time. I just wanted to get to know him. So I was like, I told him out of respect that I was going to just stay another 15 minutes and then go home. And he was like, okay, like, that's fine. But he took it as a sign to make a move, and we started kissing. And I was like, okay, it's fine. I didn't really want to do this, but, like, we can just kiss. Like, I'm okay with just, you know, having a few kisses, whatever, but I wanted to go home. I didn't even really want to kiss him. But I just went with it, right? I just went with it because I didn't know what else to do, and I wanted him to like me, and I didn't know what to do. I was even, like, trying to pull away from the kisses, and I was just trying to, like, talk in between and stuff, but then he would keep going back in. I was like, fuck, okay. I wasn't really fully there while we were making out because I was thinking about how I didn't really enjoy it, and then I wanted to leave. But I was trying to pull away, like I said, but then he started to move his hands onto my body. And at one point I remember him, like, putting them on my breasts, and I physically moved his hand. I was like, okay, no, but I kept kissing him because I thought that was enough of a sign to just show him, like, okay, I don't want to do that. He kept trying to touch me in different places, and so I pulled away and I told him, like, just kissing. Like, I don't want to do anything more than kissing tonight. And he said okay. He was okay with it. While we were kissing, he was making my lip, like, swell up because he was sucking on my bottom lip, and so it started, like, pulsing and getting really fat. And so I remember trying to use that, like, I remember being in pain because my lip is, like, fat and pulsing, and I was like, this is so uncomfortable and it hurts. So I told him, I was like, hey, like, my lip is so fat, like, it hurts. And then he was telling me, like, oh no, it looks cute, and then continued to kiss me. I tried again to get him to stop, but he didn't. And sure, they're not clear, like, no, stop signs, because, I don't know, like, you still want them to like you. You know what I mean? So I was trying to use signs, like, subtle ways to make him, like, get the hint that I wanted to stop and I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to kiss him, but he just kept saying like it makes you look cute, or like just kept kissing me and stuff like this. And then he kept continuously trying to put his hands like on my breasts or like on my lower parts and stuff. And so I kept telling him like, just kissing tonight, like not tonight, not tonight. I remember I said those 2 lines so many fucking times, like genuinely 5 times each, like 10 times. I was telling him over and over again, like, just kissing, please, like, not tonight. I don't want to do that tonight. And so this repetitively kept happening. And then at one point he was like, why won't you do more? Like, why not more? Because he continuously was also saying that he just wanted to have sex, like he wanted to have sex with me. And then I'd be like, no, like not tonight. He'd just be like, but I want to so bad. And I'm like, okay, but not tonight. And so he asked me like, why won't you do more? Which, first of all, can you not respect the fact that I'm telling you that I didn't want to do it? Like, is that not enough of a reason? Like, why do you have to ask me why I don't want to? Like, can I just not want to have sex one night? Like, thank you. And obviously, me being the nice person that I am, not wanting to hurt his feelings, couldn't just say, like, I don't want to have sex. Which is a valid answer, but I think him asking me it and me also not wanting to hurt his feelings, I was like, I can't say that. So I came up with some excuse saying that I told myself beforehand that I wasn't going to have sex, so I just wanted to stick with that. And it probably wasn't the smartest answer for me to say, because I think he took it as a sign to like that I was playing hard to get or something, and that I still wanted to have sex with him. But I don't know, he just seemed like it wasn't a good answer, and so he started trying more after that. And I kept fucking telling him like, no, like not tonight, like I don't want to tonight. And after saying it so many times and fighting back, like I fought back so much, like moving his hands, telling him this, everything. So at that point, I just ended up not even trying to fight back, not even trying to flee. I just went straight to the fawn part of survival mode. I was like, okay, I give up. I give up. There's nothing I can do because you are not listening to me. I am trying for you to stop, but you're not fucking listening. So I just gave up, and he ended up taking my pants off and doing more sexual stuff. And then, like I said, I just listened to what he wanted, and oh my god. At one point, I got into the same position I had been in when I was raped, and all that was going through my mind was that I was raped in that position, and I just was like, it was like I was back. And then he decided to whip out his dick and try to go inside me. But somehow this force of, I don't even know, something came over to me, and I whipped my fucking head around, and I was like, what the fuck are you doing? And he was like, whoa, look, I'm not actually gonna go in, like, don't worry, I'm not actually gonna do it. What the fuck? And then again, I was like, okay, like, what do I do? Like, he keeps coming back with these responses, like, I am trying. So I just turned back around, and I also cannot tell you what happened past this point, because I dissociated again here, and my brain has blocked most of it out. So somehow it ended I was feeling a bit uneasy, but I also hadn't really realized that he was assaulting me that whole time. But yeah, then I ended up going home, and about a week, I think, or maybe like a few days or a few weeks or something like that, I then finally realized, and it clicked in my head, that he had assaulted me. That I was telling him no and he was going against that, and he was assaulting me that whole fucking time. I then lost it again and was a wreck, because I literally remember realizing it, and I remember driving home one day hysterically crying. I was bawling my eyes out because I had come to the realization that I had been fucking assaulted again. I was like, there's no way. I was like, there is no way I'd just been sexually assaulted for a second time. At this point, I hadn't realized my other assaults because it was actually the third time. Well, probably more than that, actually, at that point, that I had been assaulted. But I was sitting there just driving home, hysterically crying, like, what the fuck? And I started like having even more just self-doubt, self-blame, all of these bad like negative beliefs about myself, and I felt so just awful about myself. And I was like, okay, you know what, I cannot do this anymore. I'm crying all the time. I feel like shit about myself, and I'm a very big like self-advocate. I always ask for the help that I need, and at this point I was like, okay, like I need more than what my current therapist was doing. So I was going home for the summer, so I decided to look online for someone who specialized in sexual assault and stuff like that, and I found my current therapist. Bless her soul, thank God that I found her. Because then I started working with her as soon as I got home, like a few weeks later, at the end of May, and she really helped me to realize that I had trauma from these events. And yeah, it was the most relieving thing when she told me that I most likely had PTSD from this. Because before that point, I felt like I was just, I don't know, so crazy for having the reactions that I was having, or that I was overreacting, because I was literally having all these panic attacks and like extremely emotional like moments, and just hating my body and feeling worthless, and just like, also I had a lot of suicidal thoughts around this whole time as well, because it was like, how can I live with the fact that these things happen to me? Like, how can I live knowing the cruelness of this world, and knowing that I didn't ask for these things to happen to me, they just happened to me? And how can I even go on to find love again? Like, how can I find a man again? Like, how can I even talk to a man again when I know that these horrible things continuously happen to me? And I was just feeling like a wreck. And so she really, really validated me by telling me that I probably had PTSD. That I met all the signs of PTSD. And then we went into a whole therapy for it. It was called CPT, Cognitive Processing Therapy, and that helped me so much. And I realized all of the awful beliefs I had about the world and myself and men because of these events that happened, and she really helped me to fix them. While going through that, I realized that I'd also been sexually assaulted before both of these two accounts that I just explained to you. And it was by someone that I had been seeing for also a while. He would, whenever we would sleep together, he would put on a condom, and I was fine with having sex. I was okay with sleeping with him with the condom on. There was a lot of times where he would not want to wear the condom, and the one time that was the worst was when he was like, I'm gonna take my condom off, like, can I take it off? And I told him no. And then genuinely like 10 times, 20 times over, he asked me and I kept saying no. I'm like, no. And I said it in such a firm way. I was like, no, you cannot take it off. Like, no, I don't want to have sex with you without the condom on. But he kept like asking and pushing. And then at one point he was like, okay, I'm just gonna start taking it off or whatever. And so he literally started to take the condom off. And at that point I was just like, okay, fine. And then he took it off and continued to sleep with me. So I think that's a case where it doesn't seem like that's assault because I consented to it, but I only consented to it with the condom on. And I told him no so many times that I did not want to have sex without the condom on. And he even asked me, he's like, why don't you want to? Or like, why won't you? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I don't want to. Like, what? And I didn't realize that was assault until like through that therapy when I was really learning about it and processing a lot more. And then I realized that he had done that multiple times, like with the condom and also just with sex, like trying to convince me to like do it. And he'd always just repeatedly ask me over and over and over to do things. And then I'd always be like, no, like, no, like not today kind of thing. And then he'd ask me until I finally gave in and said yes, which is not me saying yes. I said no the first time. My answer is no. Like, what? That is still assault. That is still not full consent when I say fine after you ask me 20 times over for me to finally say yes because I give up telling you that I'm not gonna fucking do that. I processed all of these events throughout the summer and I'm so grateful to be where I am now and in the headspace I am now and to be able to handle the events that happen to me now. And like, I used to get triggered so incredibly easily before, but now I'm in a place where I can actually handle those triggers. And another very traumatic event that happened was that a few months ago I had to do this like seminar kind of thing where me and a bunch of athletes sat in a room and had to learn about safe sex and like sexual harassment and stuff like that. And so I was okay sitting there learning about the topic. I was like, okay, like I can handle it, like I can do it, I can sit here and I can learn about it and it's gonna be okay. But one of my assaulters was in the same room, so I had to sit there and talk about sexual assault and sexual harassment while in the same room as my abuser. And when I tell you that was so, I don't even know, it was incredibly traumatizing. It was incredibly difficult. And I have to live like every single day, every single week, seeing this man again and again, multiple times. And I finally got to a place where like I can see him without having a panic attack. At the start when I first came back, like it was hard and I did have a few panic attacks after seeing him, especially because one time it was at a party and he walked behind me and put his hands on me and I was like, there's no fucking way you just did that. And it was extremely triggering, but I finally have gotten to a place where I'm like, okay, I can see him and not be an emotional wreck after. But every time it's different. Like sometimes I am like wanting to bawl my eyes out. Other times I'm just like, it happened. He was there. It's okay. Moving on with my day. That is my whole sexual assault stories and experiences. And I really, really hope that someone could find validation through this, and it could also help educate some people on how assaults do happen. I will be talking more about the PTSD and the therapy I went through in my next episode, because I think that could really help some people and just bring more awareness as to like the fact that a lot of sexual assault victims do go through a lot of trauma and PTSD. So listen to that one if you would like to hear more about that. But I thank you so much for listening to my story and taking the time to hear what happened to me and my experiences. I really, really appreciate every single one of you. But yeah, know that I love you all, and if this episode did trigger anything, you can always come to me or find some way to comfort yourself. Reach out to your therapist if you have one. Reach out to a loved one. Do something to take care of yourself after this episode if it did trigger anything. But I love you all so much, and I hope you have a great week. I will talk to you again next Tuesday as always. Bye guys. Bum ba ba bum ba 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 ba. Yeah. Bye bye bye.